Good day and good evening, and welcome back to Roulette Live with me, Chaiji, but you can just call me Kai. So, as usual, around 3 hours, maybe we go for 4, about 3 or 4 hours Roulette, and hopefully we'll get at least around 15 duties, but we'll see how it goes. But on that note, thank you for the 22 months, Taldemar. Thank you so much. And hey, Faith. Hey, Casey Cake. Feel like it's been a bit. Hey, Bohijo. Hey, Jin Monica. Hey, Tina Lee. Hey, Bubomit. Hey, Lirida. Hey, Lana. Hey, Jace. Hey, Zaf. Hey, Alice. Hey, Ilya. Hey, Shaq. Ilyashuki. Hey, Seraph. Hey, Volter. Hey, Dolks. Hey, Nox. Hey, Brit. Hope you're all doing very well. Jay says, individual books themselves aren't that bad. I thought it was going to be worse. See, the thing is with the A Realm Reborn relics, the thing that makes it really annoying isn't one particular book. Or rather, like, it's not so much that. The problem is that some of the books have required fates that are really annoying to deal with. Either because it seemingly spawns really infrequently, or because when it spawns, you have like less than a minute to react to it. So either it's not active, or there's a high probability that you just missed it. Which means that a fate like Surprise, even though the fate itself takes like 1 or 2 minutes to complete, because you can't really go anywhere aside from like checking other worlds on the data center, if they have it just spawned right now, which ultimately means you can't really go anywhere, means that if you are unlucky with the timing of that fate, means that this fate that takes, 2 minutes, takes 30 minutes, because you just have to sit there and wait for it to spawn. Which means you can't go and do anything else. Because if you go to the bathroom, the fate could spawn, fail, and leave before you return. Anything that you can't do while queued into a duty, because it might pop any moment, but instead of the duty going pling, it's ready, it just suddenly like blinks ready in a specific location in the universe, and you just have to stand ready at the terminal to say, okay, or you miss it. It's the worst. And there's also like fates with another fate as a prerequisite. The one that takes a really, really long time to spawn. I remember, like, I was just doing other stuff. So I didn't really mind it. But there is a fate that spawns somewhere around here, like at the bottom of this whole place. And this zone can have a lot of fates going at a time. I believe if you just let it do it, it might postpone that fate because there are too many fates on the map. Meaning that you have to sit and wait for all of the fates to end. And I believe there's like a whole chain reaction fate here that, like, even if you fail it, it has another fate sequence that goes, oh, well, this is what happens when you fail it, which is also a fate that takes 10 minutes and things like that. So it can really drag on, and you can't get this down here if there's too many fates on the map already. And the one that I was talking about in particular that was really rough is Surprise that spawns here. It's a defense mission, and the guards there are so incredibly incompetent that they will lose in 1 minute with no intervention from players. 1 minute and it just spawns. It's not one of those where you have to talk with an NPC before it happens. You can catch them start walking from here, and then when they reach around here, the fate just appears, and you just have to be ready or it's over. I can't remember if it appears once or twice in books, but that is what makes books so incredibly frustrating. That's also why when in my speedrun, I make it very clear that the reason why the book steps were as fast as I did them is because every time I picked up a book, the exact moment I picked it up, I had like 3 friends that basically were like, Rude Awakening's over here on this specific world, come on over, it's ready to go. And if it was like a defense mission or something, they might even stand there and like stall the fate so that I can make it. For instance, surprise, in my specific case, I might have like 5 minutes to arrive because they're just stalling it, which is possible. That's the reason why it was so fast for me. And that's like crucially important. That makes it unfair to compare to someone who doesn't have like a bunch of friends to like help make it faster. And yet, true Nox, they still took like an average like 45 minutes each. Also, hey Ceros and Fila and Dan and Liam and Echo and Sackboy and Mistle. Hope you're all doing very well. And we're talking about the relic, the book step for Realm Reborn relics, yeah. Right then, so on that note, we of course have the wheel. Yeah, Jay said that one individual book, like a whole book in the book step, isn't that bad, which is true. The problem is that sometimes you grab a specific book and then it has one of those fates. Or it has one that, as far as you know, isn't particularly bad, but it just doesn't want to spawn. Recently, we've been very lucky with duties popping as DPS, so we will hopefully get to see some Viper. And psych! White Mage. I will queue when it says 34. Liam says, is the book step randomized or set per job? The book step is the same for all jobs. In fact, the sequence of books that you may have seen in my speedrun, if you watched that, or the speedrun, or rather, or any situation where you've seen me do the book step, except the very first time I did it, I think there is an optimized order of doing the book step, which are, oh, 21-minute replacement. That sounds like an extreme. Where you can do the quest step later at the same time. What? Elana's here too, and Taldemar's here. Fantastic. That seems like things went really wrong here. Hey, Goldo.
Let's begin, shall we?
Can the challenger defeat the wolf in his own lair?
Let's see. The white mage named TG says they have wiped 4 times. How? How? Oh man.
I wonder if you can keep up.
All day procrastinauts. Hope you're doing well.
Such speed, it's as if there's a pack of him. A stylish evasion, well done.
In the ring.
Oh no! I couldn't avoid that one.
Oh. Well, that was the red mage.
I do like toying with my prey.
Hey, Riftwalker. Hope you're doing well.
Can you fend off a pack of wolves?
I don't know. Can I? Those are not wolves. Uh-oh.
Fly true! The earth is mine to command!
Ugh. Is this when he goes for the ad phase? Or not yet.
Not bad. Not bad.
I just
We've
know.
scarcely begun.
Ugh. For once, the line didn't go like slash straight through the party, making it harder to dodge.
Bear my
The
mighty
world is
wings.
mine to commend. Nee, Cryptmeister, be the weak will. And thank you, I'm glad to hear that.
Still you stand. How delightful.
Now he go fast.
Fenrir's power can be wielded in surprising ways.
Oh, where did that colossal thing come from?
Oof. Thought I had read it differently. Oh. Ow. Hey Jeff Matt and Wolfkin, hope you're doing well.
That must have hurt. But they're not out of the fight yet.
You're mine!
Oh.
Pack
Now
of
he's gonna
wolves.
leave.
The challenger rises again! Can they turn this around?
Well, we're almost there.
Try this!
They're back on their feet! Let's see if they can stay standing!
Oh, right, we have LB. Oh. It's just that easy.
It's all over. Until next time.
Right, yeah, what I was saying is the book step for Realm of Dawn relics are entirely deterministic, as in every book has the exact same tasks every time, every single time you pick them up, regardless of job. There's no difference. It's also the same books that are offered to every job, so they like all of the different element of books and such are just smoke and mirrors to make it look like it's more complicated. And for that reason, you can do the books in a specific order to make it so that the dungeons in the book steps overlap with the quest step later to some degree, which means that you can do something like half of the quest step simultaneously with the book step. Hey, Zero Sugar, hope you're doing well. We just got an M8N, whoops, where we swooped in to help this group that had wiped 4 times somehow. Right, I will queue when it says 58. Oh boy, it's... Oh! Oh boy. We have Steve here. Hilda says, what do you want to see get updated that hasn't gotten any updates in a while? Ooh, I actually have I sort of have a video on this topic. Dang it. Didn't get to play my song in time. What job are you most confident playing and least confident playing? Most confident? Black Mage. Least confident? Bard, Ninja. Actually, a little bit Red Mage as well, I think. And if you're like, what? How Red Mage? Ignorance is bliss sometimes. Hey, Kylo. A thing that I specifically noted that I would have liked to see some freshing up on in Final Fantasy XIV is the Duty Finder. You have a favorite in every role, including melee, range, and magic? Yeah. Paladin. Sage. I think I kind of flip-flop between those. It kind of varies which is my favorite healer at any one time. And for DPS, it's Viper and Black Mage, and I think I prefer Machinist actually. Nice streaks here, Sugar. Uh-oh. I Wonders minueted too early because of the mix-up just a moment ago. Dang it. Do you think it would be a good or bad thing if the Coils of Bahamut were added to something like Mental Roulette? I think that it would be a bad idea. And I would say as much that you straight up will just have to... I also forgot to... I've not maintained my thoughts this whole time. You would have to accept that if they ever added Coils of Bahamut to Mental Roulette, it would come with massive nerfing of the difficulty of it. That is my prediction. So if you're like, man, I really wish that they'd let us have it in Mental Roulette so we could do those fights as they are. No, that's not how it's gonna happen. Is Ninja easier on controller? Couldn't possibly tell you. No idea. I don't think it is. Fair enough, Egodance. But yeah, that's basically my opinion on it, is that Coils of Bahamut is too hard for Mental Roulette. I would also argue that many of the newer extremes are also too hard to put in something like Mental Roulette, in my opinion. Is Black Mage easy if you're a cute, blonde, smart streamer? I don't know. It's easier for me. But yeah, basically there's a lot of, like, basically the way Duty Finder works is that aside from some, like, really minor stuff, Duty Finder has not been updated since it was added to the game. And it kinda shows. Yeah, I think what I saw is Sarah suggest would probably be a better solution. Is they add an easier version of Coils of Bahamut, and then, you know, name the old version Savage. I know that there is already a Savage difficulty version of the second tier of Coils of Bahamut. I don't know what to tell you. We just make that one brutal difficulty or something like that, just to name it something different. Also, here's Metrocon. How much difficulty it'd be to port the normal versions of Coils from mobile? I think that it wouldn't really work, because a lot of the things in the mobile version play on, like, the game is kind of different, by which I mean a particular thing it got a lot of positive feedback about is that it's way more responsive than the PC version, just because it be like that with netcode and such. Blah 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 blah. Oh. Dude, you have the home gang. And we're gonna wipe here. There's nothing more I can do. Yeah, I already rest the healer, Kylan. And I'm pretty sure the tank wasted their Phoenix down cooldown also resting the healer. And that's true, warrior can solo this. However, I don't know if this warrior can. St. Thomas, good luck. Yes, I was just saying in the party chat, a pro tip for the spinny cursor mechanic things is you can slow down the speed at which it rotates by mashing the forward key, because each time you move forward, it stops spinning. And so you can control how quickly it rotates by just like taking really, really small steps forward. Making it easier to make it. Also, another little tip on that is if you can't make, like you might die from like slogging through just stepping into the goop. But you will die if you don't make it to the edge, unless you're a tank. So, pro tip, better to just full send and just wade through all of the goop. If you're about to not make it, just run, because the alternative is you straight up die. One is maybe death, one is definite death. It's the same thing as Ramu Extreme, actually. It's okay to overlap the blue circles a bit if you're having trouble. Because the alternative is, oh, well, you got charmed, and now you're definitely dead. Like, either you maybe die, or you definitely die. We made it! Good thing we had Civ, so our damage was good at least. just gonna use it here because I have a feeling that the 2-minute burst is gonna align better for the next pack, potentially. Given how we just ended. The whole spinny cursor thing in this dungeon is actually... If you're a black mage, then the difficulty of the mechanic is actually proportional to how good the rest of your party is. Because if anyone in your party knows how to do the mechanic, you can just wait for them to solve it and then just manip to them for free. Very convenient. I've never actually had to do that. Because I ended up figuring out how to do it on my own first. And also, as Zav said, the boss isn't targetable during that, so mages being less mobile doesn't do anything. Doesn't matter. He's loafing! Be careful! I've noticed that my songs are a little bit awkwardly timed, so I'll have to hold my boss a little bit to actually not mess up the timing completely. That felt like an assassination attempt. And my dots ran out. I was spun around so hard that I was looking at like, why is he looking there? I feel like that's where we came from, which it wasn't. And my songs, I used my song too early after all. I thought I had timed it out correctly. I had not. Well, good thing that when someone asked what the job I feel least competent on, I didn't say a different job than Bard. It is basically a running thing on the channel that I just can't, for the life of me, play Bard very well. Yep, and also that, Shaq. Whenever I have to play a job that I'm not very competent at, that's when the mental roulette goes, oh, well, in that case... Calculated. Calculated. I totally meant to do that. Grasnout says, but like, to be fair, even a job you're not confident on, you're probably better than 99% of people. I don't know about that, but I would say that I'm possibly above average with Bard. Possibly. Maybe. I'm at least confident enough that I'll play the game like this. The average Bard player no longer plays the game. Well, if they no longer play the game, they're no longer in the running, Spreadbean. I say, Sally. Monk. I'll queue when it says on 0-0. Does Bard still benefit from Dragoon? The piercing resist down? No, that hasn't been in the game since Shadowbringers. Yeah, I'm pretty solid on Monk. Guess what? Guild test. Here goes. I'm tanking, apparently. Cool. I will queue when it says 20. Yeah, back in the day, Dragoon applied a debuff that made enemies take more damage from piercing damage, specifically, which is something Bard did. Goldus says, I'd like to see more guild heads for each expansion. I would, speak your question earlier about a system that should be updated. I have a specific video that is basically called Guild Hest, a missed opportunity or something like that. Because the story goes that even in the expansion, in the exact patch it was added, it was already like too weak to actually teach you anything. Like, when it was new, Ward Up was trivial. Oh wow, half the raid is community, including Ilana on tank. So it needs to be freshed up, that's for certain. Then we can talk about adding more or something guild has for each expansion. But for now, nah, just leave it. Eat it. It looks like there's a good chance both tanks know what to do, and ultimately the rest of the party can possibly kind of just wing it at that point. Hey, Red Master. Hope you're doing well. Ooh. We may need to explain that. Remember, Echo Dance, that on my channel I have like a mega mix 2-minute guide for all of the Realm Reborn extremes. That includes a 2-minute guide for Garuda. Good thing that Crusher saw it, because the healer didn't get it at all. Uh-oh. Ow. That's that ain't it. Hey, Lucas! And Tezzy! Oops. Yeah, basically there's only like 2 or 3 things in the fight. Most that like need to be discussed. Most of it is just don't get hit. I'll not touch the other one. Not yet. They will die. That was the correct timing. User party's doing really good damage. The good news there, Lucas, is like half the raid are community, with one of the tanks included, and that means that they're good players. It just so happens that none of them are healers in this group. There's the tank switch. Whoa! My God! Apparently the healers... The healer sprouts didn't seem to quite get it. The thing that is really scary about it is that Titan basically always uses jails, then the knockback. So whichever jail is far away from the boss, basically you just have to either you have to kill it really fast so that they can run up to Titan, or just ignore it until after the knockback. The intended solution is you have one stand under the boss, preferably the one who's already there, and then the other one just stands really far away so that you kill the one under boss, get knocked over to the other one, and then you kill that. Like, that's the optimal solution. But you definitely don't just run up to the boss because you have a jail. Because the other one might be there. It turned out the other tank was also community. Hey, Dalatir! Hope you're doing well. And CT Veteran. How do you activate chat bubbles? Chat bubble settings. Harris config lock window settings, chat bubble settings. Enable. And Liam says that was the second time that healer ran towards the other jail player. In this particular case, if you paid close attention to where they were going, that last time where they got close to me, they were not running towards me, they were running towards Titan, because you noticed they ran exactly under the boss. They weren't running towards me, they just had concluded that the solution was go under the boss. Completely ignoring the part where they were told to not approach the other jail. Pictomancer. Yeah, I will queue when it says 20. That was basically the community dragging the healers to clear and the random sprout DPS. Yes, there's basically 5 times community plus 3 times sprout. And that's the really funny thing with these streams, is that sometimes we'll land in a really hard duty, but half of the team are extremely experienced because, well, I mean, it's us, right? Hey, Spidira. Hope you're doing well. I was kind of background vibing, and the constant sound of Medica 2 being cast made me check back in out of instinctive, confused anger. Yeah. Yeah, that's also, like, I noticed that I didn't even comment on that. But that's what I mean. That, like, I've said this like 100 times, that the reason why I recommend people that know the channel to do your homework is because it is really hard to do these extremes with a healer that isn't attacking at all. If that's what needs to happen for us to win, sure, but if you're not attacking because you're just doing the duty because it's in your quest log and you don't actually know very well how to play the game, if you know me, then you should know better. That's basically what I'm getting at, and that's all she wrote. We're not gonna talk anymore about that. That's the reason. And we got an alliance raid, I think. Oh boy. And Ilana's here. Hey. No worries, Delicia. It's not very well, it's not very well highlighted where it is it? In fact, players that missed the patch where chat bubbles were added, here and there, run into it and believe that, that it's mods, right? Also, I just realized last time I played Pictomans on a duty must have been on Titan Extreme, because I actually remember attacking Titan and then moving Smudge away so that I wouldn't accidentally press it, while saying, last time I did this as Pictomancer, Nox made it challenged me to smudge off the arena, and then I clicked smudge by accident. And exactly, Zap, it used to be a mod, so it makes sense that people would think that. Elman says, I just had a tank kitchen sink the first pull in Yokatumu while not having the stance on. There's like an epidemic of bad tanks at the moment. I don't know what's going on with that. It also seems to be spreading to Fellowship while we're at it. And the best way I can explain it is like, the best way I can analyze it is that it feels like when Q times become really long as non-tank, it has this effect of causing people to pick up tanking just to get faster Qs. Mr. says, I've had a tank kitchen sink before they had even pulled anything. I offered them advice, they didn't reply. Q very stressful duty. That reminds me of a little story, like a little adventure in the Mentor Roulette series a while back. Similar situation of tank that didn't really say anything. Paladin meet them in Sunken Temple of Khan right out the gate. They just, while there's like a circle, I'll get to that in a moment, Sugar, don't you worry. While the circle is still around us so we can't go anywhere, the tank uses both of their Sheltrons and every cooldown they have. Just slam all of it. They just spent everything. And I mean, it worked. I was the healer. I was competent enough to, you know, deal with it. But it was really weird. And I think I tried to give them advice, but they didn't really respond to it. Then, like, I think, like, a week or two later, I landed in Sunken Temple of Khan hard with the same paladin. Now, you would have hoped that maybe they had, you know, developed past this situation of just full sending everything. But no, in fact, they just full sended everything, now including Hallowed Ground. But it was really funny because I specifically recognized them. The way what kitchen sinking means, Zero Sugar, is that it's actually a shorthand. Good luck, Zaf. It's a shorthand for everything but the kitchen sink. Basically, you're using everything you have except like one thing is the idea, is the concept we're going for. Now, the kitchen sink in this case is usually your invuln, because you're not combining that with all of the other mitigation that you have. Maybe tanking is just too hard for some people. I mean, absolutely, there are like some roles that some players just can't get. But essentially, a long-standing problem in MMOs that adhere to this whole tank healer DPS system. Hey Mari, hope you're doing well. Is that there is one role that people just don't want. And there isn't really an easy fix to it. There isn't an easy fix. Because the reason why people don't want the role is not easily fixed. Like, we've talked about this before, like, just because you're the tank doesn't mean that you're de facto the leader, but in most, like, Holy Trinity, quote-unquote, as it is often referred to, based role systems, the tank usually... How am I still in combat? That doesn't make any sense. Bug? Game? What am I in combat with? Didn't I get a full 20-second sprint? What? But because the tank is usually the one that ends up being responsible for pulling, because, you know, it's easier to make sure that the mobs are attacking the tank if the tank was, like, the first target in the first place, you usually become responsible for pulling, and it's usually easier if the one who needs to do the pulling knows what to pull or chooses what to pull. So by extension, you kind of become the one in charge of pulling. And that puts you in this forefront position where you are often leading the party forward. And because of the location that your character's positioned in front of the party, you also get a lot of spotlight on you, and a lot of players don't like that experience of being, like, right there in the spotlight. So a lot of players will not do that. And it's just a lot of responsibility. And if you die, it's usually a lot more catastrophic than if someone else dies. But someone has to do it. There isn't an easy solution, because it's like, I mean, you could try and make a game without tanks. You could do that. But that's, like, if you want to have this system, then generally speaking, you kind of still need something to tank. Do you just have NPCs do that? That seems weird. And as a result, players typically don't want to tank. And similarly, healer responsibility is also something that people don't want. So when tanks aren't popular, or rather, when the tank shortage isn't a big deal, a healer shortage is instead, most of the time. Metricon says, in theory, the best solution would be to make the number of tanks needed proportional to the amount of players who want to tank. True. I believe in something like the thing there is how many is that is where it gets really complicated. Because I feel like even in something like WoW, where you have a raid team of 20, only 2 of which are tanks, you may still sometimes have a tank shortage. And there's also a part that if all content in the game is like one tank that everything hinges on, and then you have like, I don't know, 3 or 4 healers, you know, proportional and all that, and then you have like 10 DPS. I mean, if you weren't feeling like you were like getting singled out a bit in the spotlight before, you definitely are now. So the people that could like overcome that fear before might not now, and suddenly you have even less tanks because it just got scarier to tank. Your job now became even more like skewed towards your responsibility. So it could just, you know, lean heavier. Lucas says, I love tanking. I think it's the most fun role. I think it heavily depends on the particular game, but I also very much enjoy tanking. But that's kind of the issue, is that the amount of tanks you have per DPS and healer might quickly make something that like was not meant to be such a huge amount of players into something where you need, in fact, a lot of players. Exactly because that's just the amount of tanks you have. Personally, for me, in 14, I think that tanking is a little bit boring. But that's more relative to other games. But that's also, like, I've already commented on that. I have a video specifically criticizing the design of tanking in 14. Because I think it could be better. Hey, cat. Hope you're doing well. But the key thing is that the problem with a shortage of tanks isn't exclusive to 14. What I'm saying with that is the problem isn't with the tank design in 14. It's something that goes deeper. Because basically every game that has the tank healer DPS system has a shortage of tanks. Like, for some reason, that's also baked into this balancing act. That for some reason, needing tanks equals not having enough of them ever. Which also means that, like, I can talk however much I want about how I think that tank design could be better in 14. That doesn't fix that problem, because the thing that makes it unpopular is probably not the design. Exactly, Red Panda. That's kind of what I was getting at before as well, is that even though you can, like, we can say all we want about, well, being the tank doesn't mean that you are the leader as a result. Just because of the way that, like, the location of players in a party evolves, even if you could outsource the decision on, like, it's not super relevant in 14, right? But Oh, that's nope. I don't believe. But now we're dead. That was the worst possible timing. Just because, like, we can say all we want that... I'll say Myrosog and Ham. We can talk... And Deadman. We can talk all we want about... Right. We can talk all we want about, oh, but just because you're the tank doesn't mean that you have to be the leader. But just because of the way that, like, the party formation is, it's way easier if you are. He reset Lucas, and then someone just made it back faster. And pulled immediately. I think. It's not so, like, this particular topic is not super duper relevant for 14 because most dungeons in 14 are super duper linear, right? So it doesn't really matter. There's only one path, so you just follow it. But in something like Fellowship, where there are many ways to do a dungeon, many different options, being the tank and making the call on what to pull is a lot easier for the tank because, you know, they're the ones that have to pull it. Like, I have done, like, when I was newer to Fellowship, I have done runs with more experienced healers basically marking to me, pull that, and then that, and then that. And it was still much slower than if I had just known what to pull. So, essentially, it is most efficient for the tank to be the leader. And so the tank ends up becoming the leader, if at all possible. Procrastinator says, I would like to tank and maybe heal, but it's so hard to get over the knowledge that everyone hates you for sucking at it. You know, don't worry about that. I covered this a little bit in my in the recent Fellowship stream. In Fellowship, there is such a massive shortage of tanks a lot of the time that you could pull in the worst way possible. And most of the time, the worst you'll get, like, maybe a DPS will leave. So what? You have instant queue. You just go again. Doesn't matter. I have seen when queuing as not a full pre-made, that it is a lot more likely that, like, a DP, like, when you queue in that game, you're offered 3 dungeons and you pick which you vote on it, and you're 4 votes. And if there's like there's a draw, then they'll choose the lower difficulty dungeon between the options and just let it be that. But a lot of the time, whatever you might see DPS like put their vote on something and not log it in, and when they see the tank vote on someone else, they'll just switch to agree with the tank, because if the tank says I want the most difficult dungeon and the tank gets outvoted, so they land in a different dungeon, the tank can just leave and queue again, instant queue pop, and then choose the dungeon they actually wanted until 3 players stay with them. That's not a very fair system, but there's not much you can do about it. The only thing you can do about it is you play the tank and be the change you want to see. I play tank a ton, and I don't do that. I just deal with it. If someone else really wanted a lower difficulty dungeon, there's probably a good reason. Chaiji says, does Fellowship not have leave penalty? It does not. And the problem is, what lever penalty do you add? What do you do? Because as far as the tank is concerned, if they don't want to do that dungeon, they can just, you land in the dungeon and they just sit down and wait. They can just choose to not interact, right? And you can report them. Congratulations, now you have less tanks in the game. If the tank leaves, you also have less tanks in the game. Like, ultimately, the problem is something else, right? And I will also add, again, that this thing that I just described that you can do is not that common. Penalize their next reward? I mean, that's a very effective way to just make them quit altogether, right? But yeah, basically, more importantly, not necessarily basically, but more importantly, exactly as Sally says, if they put a 14 style penalty, Fellowship's whole thing is dungeons. So if they blocked you from queuing for 30 minutes, it basically just it might as well just kick them. And say you can't log in for 30 minutes. I'll say new Grainer. But that's kind of the problem. That there isn't that much that can be done about it. But so, as I was saying, more importantly, you land in a dungeon. The DPS may have had to wait 5 to 10 minutes for this opportunity to play. In some cases for Fellowship, that might also be true for the healer. As a result, the average DPS and healer in that game, both because most of the players in my experience are not jerks, but also the average player are more likely to maybe nudge you in the right direction, be like, could you pull more, or don't pull that, or we need to do this, or like this thing is lacking. But they're not gonna leave. And most of them are aware that if they're gonna be a jerk to you about it, you will leave. And then what do? So most of the time, they will just put up with you not being good. And just let you figure it out. Because, I mean, now they at least get to play the game. And if they wanted it done right, they could have tanked, but they chose not to. As I've said before, someone has to be the garbage man. Nothing bad in being a garbage man. But someone has to do it. And I don't want to. So I'm definitely not going to start criticizing the one that did do it. And also, as Kat says, there might be a timer, so you don't have time to argue about how it should be done. And this logic of there is too few tanks, the queue is going to be long, kind of applies to 14 as well, in that there might be people that will complain about the way you're pulling, or they might mess you up by pulling for you if they disagree, but those are rare. And Kite, we're talking about the tank shortage, and then Procrastinauts, I believe, mentioned that they were afraid of learning it because they're going to run into so many people that will hate you for not being good at it. And that is also true, Liam. Part of the reason why I think healers get insta-queues quite a lot is because when you open the menu here and see tank in need, there's probably a lot of people queuing as tank because of that. And because adventure in need is a little slow to flip, a lot of the time tank in need actually means healer in need. Anyway, let me just note this down correctly. And then I will be right back. And then we'll keep going. Procrastinaut says, my last attempt at healing with a real group, the tank made a big pull without mitigation, died, yelled at me for it, and then quit. Yeah. The trick there, Procrastinauts, is that bad players may also not be very good at realizing, and the reason why what they were doing only worked because they had exceptional players carrying them. You recognizing that they weren't using any mids mean that what you should have done in that moment go, ah, you're an idiot. Of course. Here's the door. Leave. And then they did. Because that's not on you. If you can see that the problem is them, then basically all of their criticism falls flat to begin with. Anyway. Quick break. So in the meantime, Manatee restored. I return! Hey, Louie! And drill stops. And thank you for the sub, Kite. Thank you so much. That did seem very clippable, didn't it? And see, actually, Procrastinauts, what you just said there at the end is very much the real takeaway. In all of this, the thing that really mattered in all of this is that that other person was a jerk. That's what's gonna be remembered. I'll see Arak and Stony. Hope you're doing well. Right, let us spin the wheel again. Sorry. Hope the wheel lands on Blue Mage. Ooh, that's gonna be hard. Thank you. Right, I will queue when it says 21. How extreme? Could be. It could be. And... oh boy. Oh, Patty is here again. Oh boy. Well, at least we have a hype train. Thank you so much, guys. We have Agent Monica, we have Shaq. Patty is the tank that knew me from the Titan. Lana says, I thought we were together, but no, we're in Thornton Extreme. Oh boy. Looks almost like a holy scythe, doesn't it? Oh, looks like we're good. Lucas, you can't really... You may be able to solo heal this, and rather, you might be able to solo tank this, but not with one barrier healer. The white mage basically can't heal the tank once it has charged up. So, you can... asterisk. Thank you for the sub, Lyranda. Thank you for the bits, Alana. Lucas, I've done this specific duty in Mentor Roulette dozens of times. So, don't get too smart on me with this. Just sit down and enjoy. I will sit and I will seethe. Oh, that's really dangerous. And once again, I have indeed deliberately forgotten to mention the whole thing with the orbs making the lightning circles hurt more. That is not smart, but we'll make it work. Oh boy. We're gonna have a tank dead now. From straight up not getting healed. Can Patty make it? Oh my god, that was amazing. Looks like NT got the buff early. Or alternatively, isn't paying attention. And is just, like, wading through the orbs. We need Patty up real quick because the healers can't keep that up. I think we're wiping now. Paladin even using cooldowns? I don't know. Justin. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much. And that was all she wrote. Shaq! You had a circle, Shaq! You left us to die! Specifically singling you out because I know you know. Hey, me Wells! Hope you're doing well. That was it. Hey, Jagged! And did both healers die? One of them got feared, and no one came to help. I don't know what happened to the other one. Hey, Rain Robe! Hope you're doing well as well. You already finished Thor then? Well then. Oh boy. Oh. That's death. Possibly. Nope. Just barely not. Oh boy. Oh, we will need a tank switch quick. There's someone overcharged. And we don't have any orbs for Rolling Thunder now. And now we don't have enough orbs for a tank switch. Now we can fix it. Who has the Rolling Thunder? I don't know where the other person is. It's the tank. Well, we'll have to cycle tanks and then hope that the healers have seen that they need to heal them. Oh. I don't know where you were, Shaq, if you were one of the two that got feared there. I was looking at A and I couldn't see it. And I did see, I do believe I saw at least one person with a reticle, like, run off to Narnia. You were on A. Oh, did the person who was covering you step away, or did I miss you? But yeah, I believe the healer who was, I believe it was the Sage. I can't remember if they were the one that used healer LB that I then commented on. Don't do that. But I was also riding quite a lot all at once to try and micromanage the best I could while I was dead. And then when we wiped and came back, that healer was like, "We got this, calm down." Then we wiped, right? Like right as they said that, we wiped. And then they were like less talking, more playing. Completely ignoring the fact that, I mean, I was dead all that time. Notably, the moment I died, I would start talking to try and give advice and what to do. But when I was alive, I didn't say anything unless it had to be said. Like, for instance, telling the Sprout tank, you need to grab orbs. Not that many, and things like that. It's really funny. It's really funny because I feel like it's consistent. This, you need to grab 3 orbs, grab 6. Like, I don't know what it is, if there's some sort of like, he meant I need to have 3 stacks on my buff. I got it, like overthinking it when it's like, no, you get a specific buff when you get 3 stacks. Admittedly, the way that I was writing it probably could come off as more aggressive than it really is. Which is also, I said sorry for that. But I was pointing out problems that were legitimate problems that needed solving. I will queue when it says 57. Yeah, exactly, Lana. That is probably it. They just, like, the weird thing for me is that they grab, like, I didn't say grab this, like, this many buffs. I say grab 3 orbs. They grab 3 orbs and then go, well, I clearly didn't get enough, I guess. Walter says, it also looked like the Sage died by acting whilst they had Rolling Thunder. Ah, fantastic. So they didn't listen to that either. On that note, as you can see, Lucas, some of the players that I get, like, absorb most of that information, or at least some of it. Sometimes they're too busy being smug or thinking that it's unneeded to hear it. Sometimes they just don't understand it. So, to be fair, I did write a lot, but that's the thing, is that it takes a lot of text to write all that, and all of that is important. Like as I said, I deliberately skip over the parts, like the parts that I think are irrelevant. But yeah, I was specific. Like when I was paired with the Sage for Rolling Thunder, I completely stopped until until we were fine. And I did, in fact, I did notice that the Rolling Thunder jumped to someone near me as I was resolving it. Which was weird because, like, but wasn't I paired with a healer? of all characters to die from that? What? By the way, guys, if you are enjoying the stream, it does help a lot with a like over on the YouTube side of things. Thanks so much in advice. In advice? Thank you so much in advance. Thank you so much in advice. And that is true, Lucas. But the thing is, if I don't write it because they don't get it, then, I mean, then they're definitely not gonna get it, right? I'll say about them. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, we had a Ramu Extreme. We actually got it in a reasonable amount of pulls, but you know what's interesting? Ilana over here got Thought on Extreme at the same time and finished first. Let's switch to Dark Knight because this isn't popping. Oop. Oop. But 100%. It says in rain, right? 100%. Sometimes I'll write all that and some players don't get a thing. Sometimes they get some parts of it. Well, Shag and Agent Monica's here, so this is basically free as long as the Viper doesn't, like, wipe up a storm, right, guys? Well, the Viper is also a mentor, so they surely got this. Bruh. I shouldn't have used Rampart there. Well, they didn't get a dot, so that's at least something. Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy. Here we go. Well, that's okay. It's fine if Agent Monica was the one queuing for it. That was always allowed. As I've said a million times by now, the one thing I want to see when someone queues for some difficult duty is, well, you better have done your homework. Like, you better have, like, prepared for it and know what you're signing up for. And Agent Monica knows how to do this duty. Uh-oh. Oh boy. Love it when we're unlucky like that. Oh boy. Shaq, we need some Ishunas. Lots and lots of Ishunas, Shaq. I don't know why you're not using Ishuna. You have a dot on you that's gonna eat. You need another potion because you didn't Ishuna yourself. You gotta send it. Every debuff with a line over it, that's yours. Every single one, because that's all you can do as a healer in this part of the fight. And we need it, like, crazy hard. Uh-oh. Oh. We got it. Debuffs can have lines? There's the blue line over removable debuffs. That was as close as it could have possibly gotten. I think 3 or 4 times throughout that we had, if anyone died, it was over, and the person was like 1 dot tick from dying. Alice says, why is Rathalos the only extreme from Stormblood that's at least semi-common in Mental Roulette? I couldn't possibly tell you exactly why, but my guess is that because it only requires 4 players, Mental Roulette is reasonably likely to like be able to round up 3 mentors and go, well, there's a team there. Whereas for like an 8-man extreme, you tend to need a bit more than 1 person queuing for it to like pop. And given that you need 50 clears to be sure to get the mount, it's pretty common that people will have to do it a lot. I will queue when it says 28. Brett says, if I recall correctly, you also need to do it synced for the drops, unlike the other extremes. Yes and no. Technically, each time you kill it, there is a chance that the mount straight up drops, but the chance is really low. If you do it unsynced, your damage will be so high that you basically can't make Rathalos drop without extremely complicated effort. And that means you can't cut the tail, and the material you need 50 supplements of to buy the mount is the tail drop, which is this. So essentially, if you do it unsynced, it's really difficult to get the 50 clears. So it's often easier to just run it synced, I guess. Say Brewski. Brewski says, I was looking something up the other day, and the wiki specifically says, do not use Party Finder for Rathalos Extreme. Don't you mean Duty Finder? I'm pretty sure it says do not use Duty Finder. Do you mayhaps mean this? This red warning, Brewski? Wow, ads. You mean this? Because this one is on every extreme, pretty much. It's not exclusive to Rathalos. That is also the reason why I often say... The reason why extremes and Mental Roulette can be really hard is because, even though it's an easy fight, all things considered, is because the people you get paired with are relatively unlikely to have read or watched a guide on their job or the duty, because if they are the type of player to do that, then they would have seen that warning. I'll say bulky. Hope you're doing well. Oh, everything burps. And yeah, if you want to do it and actually win, and Ilana's here, if you want to clear, and Crush's here as well, if you want to clear duties, like clear the extremes, it's usually easier and more efficient to use Party Finder to get a group together. The only advantage you have in Duty Finder is that you can just, and Shaq is here too, we are basically all of the DPS, fantastic. The only advantage Duty Finder has is that you can just queue without having to communicate with anyone, but then you land in the duty and then you have to communicate with people. Like, ultimately you have to communicate with players anyway, so you're not really winning anything by going, I figured it out, guys. I will just queue so that I don't have to deal with other human beings. Big kaboom! I have no idea if this is pronounced the same as Phoenix. I call it Phoenix, because then you know who I mean. Aren't the stone and the fire not worth it this level? Good point! I forgot! Oh, that makes things a lot easier for me. Epic. Fei, nix. Bruh. I guess we only have one tank in this party. Never mind, we have two. And that's also true, Deadman. The funny thing is that I've seen enough cases of an extreme like actually popping that the whole suggestion of, oh, you'll get the queue faster by going in Party Finder doesn't sound as real as you might think. Like, admittedly, it sounds great. That's just not how it's gonna play out in reality. How's it, Exodi? That is true, Exodi, but fun fact, it wasn't like this in Endwalker. So it's like, they added Jolt 3 with Dawntrail, which introduced this jank. So it's an entire expansion's worth, but it is also something that wasn't like that when the content was current. Isn't that weird? And that is also true, Brett. That is almost certainly part of the whole equation. That we're a bunch of people that are queuing at the exact same moment. So the roulette is like, well, we have these two guys that want to do Ramu Extreme. Well, I mean, there's this one guy that wants to do Expert Roulette. Well, we have 3 mentors for that. Whoa! We have 6 mentors right now! Extreme! Here you go! Caetsu, my tinfoil hat theory is that Dawntrail intentionally made jobs jank in random level ranges to prepare for Evolved mode in Evercold. I will queue when it says 31. I could see that, Cat. I would also say, as like, I'm just saying, early in Dawntrail, whenever they made these, like, aggressive, like, sudden decisions to, like, simplify things, like, minor issues with Dragoon. Oh, just remove 2 Nastron charges. Just screw it. They just get 1. Who cares? Black Mage is having might have issues in Savage. Screw it. Just remove the time and make the cast shorter. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Just fix it. Gunbreaker has minor issues when there's like downtime where they can't attack something. Okay, put 2 charges on Gnashing Fang and make Bloodfist of 1 minute. Who cares? Just make it work. And then you see Evolved mode. Oh. Like I said that pretty early on that maybe it's because this whole like job design overhaul that they've promised us that it makes it irrelevant to maintain all of these things. And I mean, to some degree, yes. Evolved mode does in fact just grab it all and just go. Amaro says, as someone who's only really played in Dawntrail, I'm excited for Evolved mode so I can either complain about a new jank, or reminisce about old jank like older players. Asymmetricon says, kind of a shame that the Reborn jobs will preserve those changes then. True. I agree. That is strange. That is indeed very strange. Let's grab the White Mage we rolled earlier, I think. Hey, TDO. Wow. Expert Roulette, here we go. With double Pixelmancer, yeah. Hey Guzzle! Guy gets to do Expert Roulette but without the tome reward. Well, actually the reward from the duty itself is actually a pretty large amount of the weekly tomes. It's actually pretty decent. In fact, the tomes from the duty itself is a larger portion. That's not too bad. That's an awkward time for TBN. Ace Magicom says, we do have a precedent of make hasty decision, make hasty change because next expansion will fix it. With Monk 5.3. Oh yeah, I do remember that. For those that didn't play in Shadowbringers, before 5.3, Monk had this whole thing with managing Greased Lightning, which was like a buff that they had to like keep adding to or refresh. But then in 5.3, they made Greased Lightning passive, essentially. It just made it like, oh, no, you don't, it's just an effect you have now. Whatever. Which basically meant that everything about Monk was press your OGCDs and do 1, 2, 3 combos. You still had a dot to maintain and a buff to maintain, and then Dragon Kick and Boot Shine was still alternating. But like perfect balance basically didn't have any purpose aside from, I guess you can boot kick more. Nay, Dark Shadow, albeit we will. And then with Endwalker, they added a whole Masterful Blitz mechanic. But that does mean that for like a large portion of Shadowbringers, Monk was just effectively missing a mechanic. Voltus has just had a Tower of Zod with the Scholar, never attacked and used only Physic. Oh boy. Oh boy. Ridmaster says Tower of Zod seems to attract a lot of bad players. Well... You know, that is a good point. I'm not entirely sure why. You'd assume the only jobs that would have that problem would be the ones that start at level 80, right? But Tower of Zod is also one of those where it's actually like a reasonably difficult dungeon when it really comes to it, especially if your tank is level 81, not 82. So no Bloodwetting, no Holy Children and all that. Yeah, also true, Amada. Weirdly, Vanguard has a tendency to have some interesting players. Maybe story skip, but if they got a story skip, wouldn't they land at level 90, Tom? And that's what's made me draw blank. I'm like, but if they bought a story skip and a level skip, they would be level 90. What the bird doing? Maybe skip to Endwalker? That's possible. But it could also be Tower of Zod is a pretty big step up in difficulty over, well, basically the end game dungeons of Shadowbringers. That's actually a common problem, is that the first leveling dungeon of each new expansion is substantially harder than the things that people have been essentially doing as 270 as dailies at max level because of the way gear works. Zod is Magus Sisters, that's correct. And Babil is Anima, correct. Nay, Salingino, Obido we will. I think there is a separate level skip and story skip for each expansion, so you can pick which one you want. It still seems weird to me to buy, like, unless you have a really good reason, why would you buy the level skip for, like, to Endwalker and not to Dawntrail while you're at it anyway? Naomi says, I feel like Yukatumi is less of a step up than Zod and Hallminster. I agree. Which is funny, considering that Dawntrail got, like, right at launch, got a lot of feedback about being too hard in the casual content. Ham says, the people online said Endwalker is where the game is or was good. Oh, that could also be the explanation, yeah. Oops. Dawntrail is a lot more expensive than Endwalker skip. That would make the difference, yeah. I think Biff. It could be an alt job. It could be a lot of things. But I do think there is, like, I mentioned it earlier. It sounds like there's a little bit of an epidemic of tanks that don't know what they're doing and healers that don't know what they're doing. But, I mean, it's just more noticeable. I'm sure I've also seen a bunch of DPS that don't know what they're doing. And what's really funny about that is that it makes sense when you take a moment to think about who are those players? And that's not meant as a negative or like to be particularly mean or anything. It's straight up, what kind of player would have gotten that far and not be that good? Hey Rust, hope you're doing well. That kind of player would at least be more likely to be the kind of player that comes and goes in waves. Like, they come to, like, do the MSQ and then they're done. For the most part, they don't need to, like, farm the post game or get really good at their job. They don't need a guide. They're just gonna play the game, and when they've done the story, that's it. They're good. They played like almost like a single player game. Maybe they'll use it a little bit for the social aspects. And those players tend to, like, come in waves when the game is having, like, a little bit of a popularity spike. I say, Gigapoggers, hope you're doing well. I remember doing Tower of Zod for the first time as Black Mage. That last boss was something. Oh, yes. They do the big wombo combo and the game just goes, so I hope you brought mobility. An old school Black Mage, you say? Well, good luck. That could also be, Ilana, that the actual thing that we're observing is that the many of the, like, above average players, I don't know how to put it, have just, like, finished what they wanted to do. Uh-oh. And so there's less of them in the queue, which then proportionally makes the ones that have a little bit of a harder time look like there's more. I don't know. But it is something that I've noticed, that whenever 14 has, like, a little bit of extra attention and, like, moments where it's like, oh yeah, it's extra good now, you should come back, suddenly weird things happen. That's also usually where I feel like there's more extremes in men's roulette, weirdly. Which would also track with what I said earlier, that the kind of player that is more likely to queue for extremes and Duty Finder are the kinds of players that don't really look at guides and such. They just play. But just to be clear, I'm not like trying to throw blame or something. It's just trying to figure out what the reason is for what's going on. I'm assuming they played a bit and then bought the level skip. That could happen, Volta, but I'm not even joking. It's perfectly possible that they just didn't care to get good at the game. I've mentioned this before, and I'm specifically not naming because that would be mean. I have a friend who like comes and goes from Final Fantasy XIV very, very frequently. In what I mean by that is that he'll play up to the current end game, like the current MSQ, and be like, this time I'll like really get into it. And then not. And then just quit again. And come back and come back and go and come and go and come and go. And he will often have like a couple months between each session of like playing a bunch. Like I learned, like I met him in like Shadowbringers, like mid Shadowbringers. I explained to him what an OGCD is in Endwalker after he had completed the MSQ. And just to be clear, the way the conversation went is that I was supposed to teach him a little here and there on how to get better at Machinist, and I was, ready to like give him like the general rundown of like rotation and stuff. I had to explain to him why he should in fact be using Ricochet and Gauss Round. Because what he saw was, well, that has less potency than my filler combo. Why would I use that? How does that happen? Well, I mean, he played up to the end, like to the current end of story, right? And he didn't need to do better than that to clear it. No problem. So he didn't know, like, how good or bad he was. So he just kind of learned how big the difference was when I actually sat down with him and explained. And in fact, it was so overwhelming in the moment that he decided at first to reroll to main a different job altogether. And before he even got started, he quit the game for several months. And again, the takeaway from me telling this story is not, look at how bad my friend is. The takeaway is, if you don't like super care about being like really good, it's really easy to be really bad. Rainrope says some stuff is really unintuitive, like some movement tools such as Holy and White being DPS losses. I will say on Holy and White that the DPS loss discussion about Holy and White is that the DPS loss is so incredibly small that I think, these kinds of rates are always made up, right? But I think 99% of the players that get caught up in Holy and White as a DPS loss have no business caring about that. Because the DPS loss is so small that if you like go like you're casting something, then you go, oh, I need to move, and you cancel your cast, boom, you've lost more damage than Holy and White will ever lose you. That fast. See, Liz and Cloud Jade, hope you're doing well. Liz says, I only really play 14 a month or 2 a year. Most of what I know is theoretical from watching people like you instead of, playing the game a lot. Yeah. Cloud Jade says, with no DPS meters, you also don't get any feedback on how you're doing. 14 is much more relaxed in that way, and that's usually a good thing outside of serious content. Correct. And yet the reason why players can get this far and not understand how the game works is because, like, the game allows you to do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've said this before, like, people are sometimes, like, I think on a recent stream we had to talk about this. This getting on the game's case for not tutorializing literally everything in the game. But it's a game. It makes sense that the game goes, this is an action. This is a cast bar. There are different kinds of actions. Good luck. And then you figure it out by playing the game. Like, a huge amount of the things that people just take for granted knowing in, I don't know, Elden Ring, are things that the game said you can equip weapons. And then when you press this button, you swing the weapon. Weapons have different attacks and abilities and whatnot. And then people figure out that, oh yeah, but this ability does way more damage than that ability, so when you're using this weapon, you should use it like this, and when you're using that weapon, you should do it like that. And then, like, the players that play Elden Ring don't get on Elden Ring's case for not explaining that. You're supposed to figure that out. But because 14 is a multiplayer game, the fact that players can get this far without learning can feel detrimental for the players that, you know, took the time to learn. The motivation to get better in 14 is to not be a burden for the rest of the party, essentially. And then there's a whole conversation about whether that matters. Also, hey Kwasari, and pair squared. Alice says, Elden Ring never explains how attributes scale, but it does feel intuitive. It feels intuitive if you have a lot of game experience. Yes. Yishuki says, hard to know how good or bad you are without a point of comparison, and good enough to beat the story isn't always the best frame of reference. No. An example that I've used before is my first playthrough of Stranger of Paradise. Good game, by the way. I basically played on normal difficulty, of course, and my playstyle was mainly to hang back and cast ranged spells, and whenever I ran out of MP, I went into parry an attack, like a stray attack aimed at an NPC companion, and then I would cast more spells. I was like playing like the super chicken mode, essentially, and it was very slow. Then, on my second playthrough, I played on hard with the NPC companions turned off. I quickly learned how to block because I couldn't progress in the game without it. I learned that I was like turbo garbage at the game. But the game allowed me to get through it doing that. When I used all of the, like, assist tools, like, offered to me. Anyway, I'll be right back, and then some more mental roulettes. Good luck with your raid session, Kwasari. In the meantime, manatee restored. I really need to get some other, like, view so really can see the manatee. Alright, I'm back. Need a toggle that adds a holy aura just around where the manatee sits. Yeah, as Ham says, the damage loss of using Holy and White is so little that, as I said, doing anything that isn't attacking for like a fraction of a second is a bigger damage loss than using Holy and White. In general. Right, we had Summoner queued up. But yeah, to get back to the topic we just had. Essentially, the reason why there can be a lot of players that are just really bad, LQ when it says 54, is because you don't need to be really good to complete the story. And a lot of players don't really care about all that. In fact, I think one of the most interesting examples of this is if you've been, like, some of you may have noticed, some of you may, I don't know how many of you have been paying attention to this. I've been running this, these polls on which job do you think is harder in your opinion. And just pairwise comparisons of jobs in a role. And a lot of the time, if there is some sort of disagreement of a job that is really hard to play in hard content, or alternatively, the optimal rotation for a job is really hard, relatively speaking, or the job is easy in casual content, or alternatively that the intuitive rotation or like the freestyle rotation, what have you, is really easy, then the job is likely not considered very hard. Whereas if the job is really hard to learn, even at its base level, or it has a lot of trouble in casual content for whatever reason, then it will get a lot of votes. Because for each savage raider that knows that, oh, well, actually this job is a lot harder than you'd think, there's probably 3 or 4 casual players that don't care. Says, have there been any near 50-50 splits of the polls yet? I feel like most of the polls have been having 80-20 or thereabouts. Yeah, most of them have been pretty straight in one direction. I think one of the more close ones was actually Machinist. Actually, I think... Oh, it's Bachman! Hey! I think anything involving Machinist, actually. I will queue when it says 51. Ow. Ow. But yeah, most of them have been pretty close. Or not close at all, sorry. Have not been close. Ooh, Vanaspati. Need to bring back Bulbous and Durante voice actor? Yeah. I will not yield my domain. I would like mayo on my sandwich. Can you please hold the pickles?
My friends,
My friends! My friends! Bro!
forgive me. I could do them no good.
Forgive me, my damage bad. That looked fine. Got a little spicy. Looked like the sage was tanking a bit.
I shall silence the beasts of the air. Pray continue onward.
I'm over here like, wow, it's really far. Don't know what's going on here. It's always so far with this. Wasn't there a train earlier? Yes, there was. There was a train during Rameau. It almost hit level 2. But yeah, I got distracted, so I didn't even comment on it. Thank you so much, guys. But I got distracted with the Rameau itself, so I'm sorry about that. I could have brought more attention to it. Yeah, I suppose so, Lana. I didn't know either. Double take? Well, there's double necromancers. Ooh. Mara says, is Necromancer a rare or notable title? You get... Do you know what Palace of the Dead is, Amara? This, a deep dungeon. Necromancer is a title you get for beating Palace of the Dead, the full 200 floors alone. I've almost managed to do it on stream. I haven't done it. Vibe says someone has two someones. Both the monk and the warrior. Is Ralph death too? I believe with the new system where you're allowed to die as much as you want and are allowed to continue as long as you didn't die past floor 100, I believe it's okay as long as your deaths are only in the first 100 floors. But you still have to, like, nail it after that. It is a title that has been in the game for a really, really, really long time, so a lot of players might have it less from pure skill and more from determination. That doesn't make it any less prestigious, obviously, but that has led to some situations where sometimes people are like, yeah, but it's not difficult to get, quote unquote. I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult to get. And I say that as someone who has tried. Right? I think also part of the reason is that people put the same kind of stake in it as so many other difficult titles. I have a whole video on this, the PayPal Legend video. Is people will see someone with a Legend title, which means that they've completed an Ultimate, and then, like, talk smack on that player for making a mistake in a casual duty that surely is easier than an Ultimate. Whereas the truth of that, the very simple reality is, yeah, because a Legend title means that you cleared that Ultimate. And that you're really good at that. You might have a bad day. Could be the reason why you're derping it up in a casual duty. You might not have done that casual duty that many times. So what? In fact, another possibility that has come up is the Legend who's failing in that so supposedly super easy duty is actually failing because he's chomping on chips and looking at his second monitor while doing all that and playing roughly as good as you, maybe. And the reason why he died was because he wasn't really paying attention. But you'll never know. Gigapoker says, it was hard at X point in time argument. Also that. That one is a classic. You know how it goes. That, like, a large part of that is also just because I want my achievement to be better than yours. Exactly, Gigapogos. That is ultimately what it comes down to, is I'm better than you, is what they want it to be about. And exactly, Brett. I'm also like, wow, 2 Necromancers. The reason I'm going on this whole tirade is because I know that if I was like, yeah, it's really hard to get, there would almost certainly be someone in the chat who's like, nah, I have it and I'm bad at Palace of the Dead, so surely it can't be that hard. People do that a lot. They will gladly throw their own skill level on the meat grinder to make your achievement look worse by comparison as well. It's really cool like that. You're the ultimate legend? Well, I'm the heart of the party. So I guess who's the best? So I guess we know who's the best. That's the spirit. I'll say, who's Simon? Hope you're doing well. Oh boy, I think I confused the healer there. And didn't help myself at all in the process. Okay, hope you're doing well as well. Nacelle Dragon. Yeah, or people comparing the achievements. I'm using a title because I just like the title. I believe my title is from maxing out the reputation with the pixies from Shadowbringers, which everyone knows is really hard, right, guys? It's actually very time consuming. It's impossible to get in, I believe, any less than 6 weeks. Or is it more than that? So, all things considered, it took longer for someone to have this title than it took for someone to have the Kefka Ultimate title, the Cruel Legend. So, yeah, I think that's the best counter to those kind of people is just really clown on them with the counter of, oh yeah, you have a very special achievement. Well, I do too, you know. That's a great one. And I would also say, as someone who has been trying to get the Necromancer title, that, let me put it like this: if you could just choose, like, if you could just start on like floor 150 or 151, I suppose, with all the Pomanders filled out and just ready to party, which is possible. Like, that is a point you could realistically put yourself in for a run. And in my opinion, is around where it starts to get really difficult. If you think that it gets harder earlier than that, that's okay. I'm not saying that's incorrect. It's just, I think that's a pretty good point to place it. If you could have a checkpoint there and just start with everything ready to go and proc from like, you don't have to do the tedium of climbing back to the hard part, then I think a lot more players would have the Necromancer title. Because it would remove a lot of the tedium. I would certainly have tried more if it wasn't for how long the run back is. Dragon says, my title is the title you get after the side quest line in a school in Heavensward because I love the German title for it. What is the German title for it? Sonderbeauftragte. What does that mean? Luis says, I believe in extension of what I was saying, it's why so many have enlightened, which is the Pilgrim's Traverse solo title. Because as there are so many more checkpoints in that deep dungeon, players are a lot more likely to just practice and then get it right, because they have the option to. Whereas in Palace of the Dead, if you want one try on Behemoth on floor 180, well, you have to climb all the way there first. Special representative. Oh, whoops. Uh-oh. Oh, are you saying that Dark Shadow and Cell Dragon is the same person? Or are you saying hi to Cell Dragon over across the streams, Dark Shadow? I'm a little confused. Oh, you know each other. Fantastic. Gigapocket says, I run the final fish title because fishing is my favorite and most hated content in the game. Getting some Dragoon. Dragoon. I'll queue when it says 26. Blom, blom, blom. Oh! Hey, Zark. Hope you're doing well. And thank you so much. And just to be clear on that one is I haven't stopped making guide videos. It's just that there isn't really anything that I feel like needs guiding addressing at the moment. I have done so many, you see. A haunted mask? The all Midlander party? Oh, it's okay. I'm the token lizard. Part of any important strike squad. It's just how it goes. Remember that video about the hardest normal raid you made? Because you had Eden Ramu, just had a horrible run of it. You see, the funny thing there is that, like, I have had some bad runs of Eden Ramu as well, but a lot of the time, the runs where it actually goes completely sideways are extremely... I don't know why I completely skipped my burst there, but it's okay. I'll have the 2-minute for the boss. That was not intentional. The amount of bad Eden Ramu runs I've had are pretty few. Like a lot of people have also been like, why is Titan from Eden not here? And the reason why Titan isn't on the list is because I did Eden Titan on launch, and I have never wiped as many times on that fight since day 1, ever. So relative to my day 1 experience, he's like baby mode now. So for me, he barely moves the needle with that. Exactly, Ham. The other way that people can die to Eden Ramu is that you can get yeeted quite easily by the like dashes. But you only do that a certain number of times before you learn. And also on that whole topic, I shouldn't have done that. Like, if you check the comments section of that video, you'll find that there's plenty of disagreements. It's pretty funny. I include the birds from Eden iconoclasm, and there are people going, well, that one is obvious. Like, of course that one's included. And there are simultaneously also people saying, why did you include that? No one wipes to that. So, like, if you feel like I completely missed on some of them, just remember that it is a bit subjective. I do think I did say as much in the video as well. Like, I have seen some bad Eden Ramu runs. It just... I would say that he does go in that category of he's not really capable of following through. If you have like one healer and one tank alive, those two might be able to bring it home, I think. As long as you don't make further mistakes. He's very, very capable of killing off individuals if they make mistakes, but he can't turn that advantage into a wipe for everyone. And that's why he wasn't making the list. Exactly, Naomi. Eden Titan can wipe parties if everyone is having trouble. I think he has a stack, but I believe it isn't strong enough to be a problem. And there's enough space between the stack and his capacity to wipe parties that if he wipes you all out from... Oh, I should have done that differently. From like a knockback, then you can have enough players alive again, assuming the party didn't completely get just squashed before you need everyone. When I was wiping a ton on day 1, the reason we were wiping is because the triple hit, like the triple flybys, were happening. I don't Like, when I do Eden Titan today, he doesn't get to that mechanic unless things go terribly wrong. Like, he doesn't even get to do it. Yeah, that's also true, Naomi. That is fair. And that is also, like, that's a thing that can easily make the fight appear a lot harder than maybe it is. Is that a lot of fights, I could go, oh yeah, but the boss doesn't have the capacity to follow through and wipe you out. Where it's like, yeah, but what if he kills both healers and there are no DPS that can res? It's like, yeah, but at that point, there is a possible universe where Ifrit hard wipes you. Does that count? For some reason, your healers decided to just party, just hang out in front of Ifrit, and at some point he just decided to double fire breath, and boom, you're dead. Eden Titan is still harder than Ifrit hard, generally speaking. Yes. Totally. My example was more, I can fish out an even easier fight and call it hard by that standard, right? That's what I meant. Which is why often in that video, my main focus was, well, how likely are you to wipe from, like, how likely is it that you're screwed if some of your players are bad? Like, can he wipe you because half your raid doesn't know the mechanic? That kind of idea. I still would not consider Eden Titan an easy normal raid. Me neither. In fact, I do believe in that video that I counted that I put him in the fun fact. Uh-oh. Oh, tanks got it. Oh, sorry about that. You know, yeah, that is a good point, Noma. I could have worded that a lot better. that is true. I didn't mean it like that. Hey, Wild. Hope you're doing well. Just started playing a few days ago. Do you know any decent chats or groups to find to run content with? That depends on what content you want to run. There's a lot of communities for specific things. But yeah, I would still, like, my process for the hardest dungeon, hardest trial, hardest raid was that I put every single one on a list, just all of them, and then went, okay, I have to cut this down to about 10, maybe 15, and then 5 of them will be honorable mentions that get very little attention, but they will be mentioned, something like that. And some dungeons that I would rank as pretty hard was number 16 or 17. Because there are enough hard ones that it's like, well, you should definitely have included this one in your list. And it's like, instead of what? Like, this duty I have had no issue with. And like, okay, but there's like 100 other people that had problems with it. So how do you reconcile that? Not number 15? Well, number 15 would have been in the honorable mentions. The letters mechanic on that one is... What? I may be missing a joke here. Oh. But depending on how far you are in the game, Wild, depends on what kind of content you're looking for people for. If you're just progressing through the story, I mean, I'm not entirely joking when I say that if you land in a decent free company, that's probably a good start. And again, depending on what you're going, like what you need. Like, I mean, this channel has a Discord server with a lot of cool people. Might not be able to, like, might not be running a lot of content with you, but they're there to, like, hang out, talk with you. Hey, Grab Galaxy! Hope you're doing well. But if you're just looking for people, there is a Discord server for the channel. Let me... says, I wonder how those lists would differ if you did polls like the hardest job to play ones. Though, given the size of those lists, all the comparisons would take an age to do 1v1. Yes, correct. That is indeed the problem at hand. That it would take way too long to do like that. There's also the part that there's so many duties that if I put every single normal raid on a list and said, tell me which one you think is the hardest, or like rank them, the bottom like 30 or 40 would probably just be I don't know. Oh, whoops. Like I haven't done the dungeon. Like I don't even remember. So it's just like the 30 or 40 bottom ones will probably be dungeons that just, like, people were like, I have no attachment to this, so I'll just leave that. They'll just grab, like, the 10, maybe 15 top ones that they actually remember are difficult. And that alone would actually skew the data immensely. You could rank them, but yeah, you could do compare each, like compare everything to find the hardest one in each raid tier, and then compare the hardest ones from each tier, and then compare each, like, to find the hardest one of each expansion. So, like, for instance, we do a, like, pairwise between A1, A2, A3, A4, and so on and so forth. And then, like, you figure out which one is the hardest among the A1 to 4. And then, once you have the hardest one, you take the winner of that and compare to the hardest one among A1 to A5 to 8, and the hardest one among A9 to 12. And then you figure out which one is the hardest one. Uh-oh. I think we need to focus on the boss right now. And then you can take the hardest, which will probably be A9 or A12, right? And compare to the hardest ones from each other expansion. And that would reduce the amount of tests needed. But it would still be a huge amount. And then we would not have nearly as many as we could have. And like, that would not lead to a top 10. Access, have you decided on files then? I think we will, which number duty is this? I think we'll say that this is it. So what Nox is asking about is that I have sort of queued to play with him after this. So, you know, planning the day. But I have a feeling that if we're going that the next duty I queue for will be an extreme and it'll take 45 minutes. So I kind of keep the extra like the overtime for that rather than going extra overtime. And with this heat, I'll just get really loopy anyway. Like, check out how many mistakes I'm making in this Dragoon rotation already. Alice says the top ones will probably be very obvious as well, and depending on the role you play at dungeons, difficulty can vary wildly. Exactly. Whether... Wait, what did you notice, Mistel? Now I'm confused. What did I say? Was it the amount of pulls for melees? Oh, the mistakes. Right. But... yeah, what would probably happen is that you would have a lot of comparisons where where the result would basically be irrelevant, right? Like, among the first 4 bosses in the Alexander raid tier, what counts? Does A1 being able to wipe you by not killing them correctly? Does that count? Does A4's hammer, the Nizzy, being able to just go and wipe your party because you didn't know, does that count? Or does the fight end too quickly after that mechanic that it doesn't matter? And the top 3 or 4 would probably be reasonably obvious. Well, I mean, the top 5 would probably be like the hardest raid of each expansion, just by virtue of the way we're voting it. Like, technically, if the hardest 3 raids, the hardest 3 normal raids was 3 Arcadion bosses, hypothetically, then by making the polls in this specific system would make that impossible, because they would never be voted in such a way where we could compare everything against everything. Butterfly says, can you talk about triple weaving in this game? Yes, don't do it. The only exception is maybe if you know something, like if you have followed an optimized like opener or something that does that, and you know how to do it without clipping your rotation, then don't do it. Red says, isn't there a famous puzzle about finding the fastest horse that would be useful for that? I don't know. But yeah, the long story short is don't do it. Don't bother. But yeah, it's that's also the reason why, like, with those kinds of lists, I feel like I have a decently good idea of, you know, I should probably set up a bot or something one day so that you can just do the exclamation mark Discord. You talk about quadruple weaving? No. That I feel like I have a decently good idea of, like, how the community at large thinks about some of these things. Like, for instance, I had a pretty solid idea that that Samurai probably won't rank very high among melee DPS, despite knowing that it is more complex than people give it credit for a lot of the time. Butterfly says, how do you know whether you can single double weave after cast time? Assuming that you have a reasonable connection, don't try to weave unless there is at least 0.7 seconds remaining until your next GZD. So, after a cast time... Check this out, Butterfly Spirit. You may have to, like, really pay attention now, because it's gonna go a little bit fast. Single weave, because 2.4 minus 1.44 is more than 0.7. Single weave. Double weave, because no cast time. No weave, because you have less than half a second. No weave. No weave. You can also go over to Black Mage. No weave, no weave. No weave. Absolutely no weave. We go over to Samurai. Single weave. Single weave. Single weave. Because again, it's more than 0.7, but it's less than 1.4 that remains. And this is, which melee do you think will win the polls? My money's on Ninja or Monk, just based on the average perception of the jobs. Just something like that. I don't want to be too specific, because it might, like, if people had, like, if it comes out, like, I know what I think the answer is, imagine that skews the polls. Yeah, a weave butterfly. I have videos that talk about weaving and how that all works. But the exact time it takes to weave, assuming that you have a good connection, is something in the ballpark of 0.64 or 0.65 seconds, with some shakiness to it, some variance. So if you want to be sure, make sure that you only weave if you have more than 0.7 seconds remaining. About weaving for Dragoon? 2 weaves on basically everything. The thing you can't double weave on is Stardiver. Dragonfire Dive, it might cause problems if your connection is bad. But that's it. Anyway, we got 12 duties. Oh well. I have said that I'm going to try and aim to have finished the 2000 mental roulette achievement before Evercold. I have a feeling that we will have an interesting week nearing the end of the year of multiple mental roulette streams or something like that to make that happen. But with that said, if you'd like to be part of the Discord community server, there's a link right there in the chat. There you'll find the weekly schedule where you can see what else is coming up in the coming days, usually updated Sunday or Monday. You'll also find the announcement room with links to videos and streams and them out. And if you grab the reminder roll in the role assignments room, you get a notification whenever I do any of that. As well as the next run around 15 minutes before stream starts, you can catch it right when we go live. And if you'd like to support the channel more directly, you can like over on the YouTube side of things. You can follow. You can subscribe, you can become a member, you can super chat, you can cheer. If you don't like any of that, there is also the Ko-Fi link right there in the chat. It all helps support me in the channel directly, so I can focus on doing stuff like this with all of you. So thank you so much for the support. Butterfly says, is there a way to improve connection? Legally, pay for better interwebs, more download, more upload if it's really bad. Use a wired connection can sometimes help a bit, but if it's really bad, move closer to the server physically. Technically, against TOS, there are plugins that mitigate connection, like mitigate the lag, and can make it feel like you have a much better connection. But I cannot help you with that. That is something you'll have to look up on your own. But let's see if we can find someone to raid. On this Saturday. Oh, Fruity Snacks is fishing. Let's go there. But on that note, good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where in the world, and hope to see you all very soon. Bye bye!